our goal with any of this process is to simplify. Some of that has happened, of course, in the past, and we've done the best we can. Manufacturers have posted Revit families for folks to put into their models, but oftentimes architects will modify those families to fit their need, and or the variation that they put in the model isn't something that's actually buildable. So it ends up being some sort of customization, and or something that can't even be built. So the goal here is for the manufacturers to provide something that's configurable that architects can then use. So no custom products. What does that mean? For the manufacturers, in this process, we can add specs, rules, and constraints to the inventor models and then publish that so that the architects can then customize accordingly and place as needed in their Revit family, as Revit families in their model. That's the super high level view of all of this. What does that look like from a bigger picture or pull back out? So the product engineer, they've already got their parts modeled in Inventor. They simply publish with some settings, of course, up to the Informed Design portal for a given project. Designers, engineers, architects consume those parts uh, in the model, whether they be doors, walls, windows, switches, whatever the widget is they're trying to put in the model, right? And they push that into their Revit project, which then gets published to docs. And then the end of this is the product engineer can then consume that Revit model to then uh, do a bill of materials takeoff to understand where and why some of their parts have been used, maybe model A versus model B. Uh, and of course, over the course of the development of that Revit project, from concept to construction documents, is not one day. It's several days, right? It could be 6 months in that time window. And those products could change over those 6 months or even longer, depending on the type of project. So the product engineer can then create a revision and update those published parts back to the informed design. And we can essentially do change management through this process as well. So again, high level there. What does that look like? So in Inventor, you've already got your assembly. We simply add a product definition, defining the content, defining the rules. And Jim's going to take you through that in some detail once we show you how I would consume it. As Jim would like to say, I'm the sizzle and he's all the meat. So we'll do the sizzle first just to get everybody's attention. So what do? In Revit, I simply discover those parts that have been shared, and maybe I need to customize them, maybe I don't. Customize means like use a door size or a window, left-handed versus right-handed, that sort of thing. Insert those into the model, and then of course, ultimately share that project back to all the different product people that are in the project. So what does that mean? So when we're an inventor and in Revit, there's some tools to facilitate this process. Uh, we can create what are called code blocks for Inventor. We can publish static products. Maybe there's just one. It just is what it is. The process exports an RFA, which is a Revit family for Revit folks to consume. For those unfamiliar, Revit families very much like an AutoCAD block. It's just what it's called inside of Revit. And you've got a couple of ways to share that. We'll explain what bridge and all that stuff means as we get further down the table here. Same sort of thing in Revit. I will browse the content that gets published, and then I can insert it and update and or replace depending on the scenario. Now, the tool set started in 24. So initially the first full version was in 25. But as you saw in the Inventor slide, there's some updates that came along with 26 to add additional functionality. Again, this is an evolving process as we add details to the workflow. So in 26, I can now update, maybe there's a version 2, right? I mentioned that earlier. to that particular product, I can now just simply replace with the newer version. Or maybe I want a different product altogether. That manufacturer says, hey, we heard you talking and we created a whole new product and we've pushed it into the project for you to use, right? So now we just want to swap. So lots of good tools there that if we're working in 26 versus 25.